Welcome back to another episode of Chargers Powder Hour. Colin, Appel, and Miles Raruka here. This is episode number 92. Reaction to the Chargers beating the Bears last night on Sunday Night Football. Man, I know you're feeling good. I know today was a great victory Monday for you, but man, tell me more about it. Tell me how great you're feeling.
I'm feeling really good, man. Finally, we beat a bad team by, the margin that we should beat a bad team by. Haven't felt, it's been, let's see, the last time we've actually beaten down on a team like that was that Giants game like 2 years ago. So it has been a while since, one of our
The
games
Colts
has
game
not.
last year.
Oh yeah, I guess I forgot about the Colts, Rams. Yeah, okay. We had a few good games last year, but prime time, especially this one. So I think this one's gonna stick. I guess Colts is prime time. Yeah, I'm not making much sense right off the bat here tonight, but definitely feeling good, man. Bears are a bad team, and we treated them like a bad team last night, and that's such a refreshing thing to feel for this organization.
So nice to have a, a stress-free Sunday in a lot of ways of just, one, it was a primetime game, like you said. So it was the late game, the last game of the day. And so just nice to not have that stress in that afternoon window. But yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about that coming into this game. Like we knew this was going to be more of a breather for this team, a chance to rebound, a chance to get back on the right track and headed in the right direction. They still have a ton of work ahead of them, and I mean, I think that's pretty obvious at the moment where they sit. They're sitting at 3-4, looking to get back to 500, play some good teams down the stretch. But at least for last night, today, Victory Monday, and for the next day or so, we can really enjoy what was a prime time ass whooping.
Yeah, just a good old fashioned beatdown. Really, all I wanted to see this week, well, a win, of course, but more than anything, it was about how they looked on the field, and especially in that first half, man, I'd say that we looked the part. But definitely one of our best halves, probably our best half of the season. Really, offense was able to get it going early on and keep it going, and defense was able to make stops when it mattered and was able to get the ball back in number 10's hands for yet another primetime masterclass, if you will. I think we got some guys, got some people back on board on the Justin Herbert train after watching him play last night.
Yeah, it's so funny to like hear different, like especially like in primetime games when it's like a big time announcer. It's like last night, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman. But it's just so funny to hear, or no, excuse me, not those guys are tonight. I'm totally watching the Monday night game and on the side, and that's what I was thinking of. But Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico. But it's funny just to hear broadcasters like fall in love with Justin Herbert as he's playing. I mean, he'll make a couple throws a game where I mean, Chris Collinsworth is like the perfect guy for him to just nut all over a player like on
Mahomes.
screen. Yeah, mainly Mahomes, but I feel like there were a few throws that he was just like, oh,
And his
about
typical, God, this guy, now this is a guy. Yeah, just his
yeah.
typical Collinsworth.
But
But
it's just funny to. I mean, I've noticed that over the last few. I mean, especially the Monday night game a few weeks ago. But it's funny to hear that, and then to also like think that there is a narrative out there that Herbert sucks when like the rest of the national media just loves him. So, but I mean, it was a classic Herbert, primetime performance. I don't have his exact numbers pulled up in front of me, but I know he threw for like 298. I want to say.
I believe
Um,
31 for 40, 278, and 3 touchdowns. Started the game 15 for 15, longest streak of his career to start off. So, yeah, I mean, the key was really the offense getting going right out of the gates, and there was no question about it. Once Justin was able to get that ball in his hands the first time, it's kind of lights out from there.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so nice to have guys like Austin Eckler back, and other guys contributing who we haven't really seen a whole lot this year. But all in all, man, it was a great victory, and to be able to get back to, or not 500, but at least get back into the winning ways of things. I think that's step number one. So obviously, like I said, they still have work to do, but step number one, get by the Bears, a team that, we've, at least in the last few years, we've definitely played down to our opponents. Just as much as we played up, we've definitely played down. So yeah, just good to see I wouldn't say a complete performance. I think the second half was a little shaky in a few aspects, but definitely, you know, uh, a team that they should have taken care of business against, and they did. So
It's got to make you feel good, especially with that many
it does.
eyes watching the screen. I mean, the Bears being on primetime in general should, I don't know how that came to be, but I
That
mean,
got this got made when the schedule makers thought that Justin Fields was going to be
the Justin versus Justin, I know.
the second
I
coming
know.
of Christ. I mean,
But I
everyone
mean,
was
even
right.
with Justin Fields out there, I'd still probably take our Bolts by a good margin. So,
Oh yeah,
uh, yeah, just really happy to get back in the win column. It feels like it's been a minute because it has been a minute. So just yeah, great victory Monday.
great victory Monday, man. And yeah, I mean, 3-4. I mean, look, we'll have to continue this conversation as the season goes. But I mean, I don't even really want to get into it. All I know is they're 3-4. They have another big game against New York Jets on
On
Monday night.
prime time again.
Another primetime game. So we'll be playing next week at this moment. So that'll be fun. Um, but yeah, man, I think all in all, solid win. Hard to really be mad about a whole lot. I mean, it's at least a week off of talking about what we're gonna do at head coach in the future, all these big picture things that none of us really wanted to be talking about 5, 6, 7 weeks in, 8 weeks in. And so I think it's kind of caused a little bit of anxiety amongst Chargers fans. At least it has in my own world of fandom. So it's just nice to kind of get away from all that. And does it change anything big picture? No, probably not. But does it at least get them on the winning track? And a win can do a lot. It might not change the entire landscape of this team, but it can at least get them in the mindset of, hey, let's string a few of these together. Let's go on a little run here and get back into this conversation. So I like it. Lots of work left to do, but definitely a good place to start.
Yeah, unfortunately for us Chargers fans, now we're just right back to, believing, if you will. Maybe not all the way, but I know that I saw a lot of positives that I am very hopeful will continue for the rest of the season. One of those, especially, I'm sure we're going to hop right into the offense. One of those, especially, being Quentin Johnston with his first 50-yard receiving game. I know, like, big whoop, 50 yards, nothing special. But for me, with Quentin Johnston, it's looking back at Mike Williams' rookie year a lot. He never, their stats are almost identical through what, 7 games, looking back to when he was a rookie. So I just think that it's really only a matter of time till we really get that full breakout game. But most targets that we've seen for him last night, plus the most amount of catches that we've seen for him in a game and the most amount of yards. So definitely a step in the right direction for Quentin Johnston. And it's really been a matter of time. And I'm really excited to see where it goes from here.
Dude, so excited for the development of Quentin Johnson. We've been talking about it, and like it's easy to get caught up week to week. I do it myself of like the extremes of Twitter. Everyone calling him a bust already, and man, we should have taken a few guys over him. And I get it. A few other rookie wide receivers have had some immediate success, but man, it's the NFL. Like it's you're gonna have moments of growing pains. It's not always going to be day and night. Not everyone can come into the league and be Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. Like that just doesn't happen for every receiver or every first round pick, even at that. So, uh, and I don't know if I've said this. I feel like I've said this at least once or twice on one of our pods. I feel like all it's going to take for him to really get to establish that trust and that rapport with Herbert, it's only going to take a few completions. I really believe that. And seeing that last night, like he had like a couple in a row, I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. Like Herbert, like I feel like it only takes one or two balls for Herbert. Pause. I
Hey,
feel
yo.
like it takes only one or two throws from Herbert for him to really build some trust. I feel like I don't know, and I don't know if that says more about him or whatnot, but like I really feel like he's a fast learner in that sense of like, hey, I don't know why you haven't gone to him really before or tried to make it a thing yet, but now that you're kind of forced to, a couple guys are hurt. He moves up the depth chart a little bit. Now you're kind of forced to go to him. But now I feel like whether it was a forced rapport or not, and however you want to look at that, whatever, but like at least it's happening now. And at least I think we're starting to see both of those guys get on the same page. Like you said, if you go back and look at Mike Williams' numbers his rookie year, and I know he was hurt pretty much the entire year. Um, there was a lot of question marks about
Shocker.
that, coming off that year. Like, oh man, he's hurt. Did we just draft another Jason Verrett that can't stay on the field? Lots of talent, lots of promise, but nothing really else. And then we saw vintage Mike Williams for a handful of seasons, and it was great. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely way too early. I think we have I don't even think we know the ceiling of Quentin Johnston yet. I think we know what his draft profile says his ceiling is, but I think we're just starting to see the beginning growth of what's going to be a very fun career for Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, I think last night was really the first game that I can say that it feels like they utilized him in the ways that we pictured him being utilized out of the draft. We saw a wide receiver screen or two. We saw one or two really nice back shoulder plays by him. We saw that one drag route where he got through those two defenders with a really nice move there. It just feels like he was really utilized in areas that he was really comfortable with in college, that he was able to really get going and kind of, I feel like this is one of those games that is just kind of jump starting him a little bit and really going to get that connection between him and Herbert going. So just a lot of really good stuff I saw out of Quentin Johnston last night. And if this is a trend that's going to continue, obviously only based off one game, who knows? But if this is a trend that is taking this positive leap after this game, then I'm really excited to see what they're going to be able to do by the end of the year.
Yeah, he's going to get more comfortable every snap, every game. So super excited about that development. And then, I mean, while we're on the topic of the offense here, I think we have to talk about Justin Herbert. We have to bring him up because he has been, dude, I really think, I mean, we talked about it the second that he went down with that hand injury a couple weeks ago against the Raiders. You didn't seem to think it was going to bother him that much. I brought it up and you were like, no, I don't think it'll bother him that much. And I was kind of like, yeah, right. You're probably right.
I still don't
Um,
think it has really.
See, I don't believe that. I think it's
Well,
at
okay,
least
yeah, maybe like slightly, but I don't think I'm not pinning a bad game against the Chiefs and a bad game on the Cowboys on a left finger injury.
look, I mean, it's not like he's like visibly grimacing after every throw. And like, I don't think it's much of a storyline. I think like it still probably is looking a little too much into it, but I just don't think you can sit there and say like it hasn't affected him, at least mentally. I think that's where it's affected him the most. Like I would agree with you, straight physically, straight whatever. Oh, look at this! I have a drink brought to me here.
What
What
you
is
drinking tonight?
Papa Go Orange Blossom Mandarin and Wheat?
There you go.
Huss Brewing Company, Arizona. It's a local, uniquely Arizona is what it says on the can. Wow,
Nice.
that's service right there.
That
Just so you
is
know.
that is wow. That's impressive. You just get served in the middle of
I
a
heard someone walking down the hall, and then I heard a can
uh,
crack. I don't know if he caught that. And I was like, "Wow,
Casper the
A1."
friendly beer ghost.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
What were
not
we
drinking
talking about?
anything tonight, man. I had way too much fun this last Halloween weekend. I'm still hydrating, but yeah, back Justin Herbert. I mean, you're talking about, you
Oh,
think
the
his,
hand.
but
I think, yeah.
I totally understand how it's could be more of a mental thing, just like he
Well,
feels 99%, but
even as something where like I was watching the game last night, and he made it was like plays where he had already like completed the throw, but it's like it's even things like, okay, you've stood in the pocket, you've made the throw, you've completed the throw. Now the camera goes off you obviously, but it's even things that we're not seeing on camera. It's like, or if he's getting tripped up as he's thrown, he's got to he's worried about how he has to land and fall so he doesn't, or if he's going down, how he can tuck and roll away, or at least like,
Yeah.
it's little things like that that I just think add to the like you already have enough shit to worry about at that position. Like with that job, you already have enough to worry about, and then I think once you start letting stuff like that, creep around, and not saying that like those thoughts specifically, but I just think it's a multitude of things mentally. I think it was interesting to note that I think Tarico on the broadcast last night said they interviewed him before the game like they do, and he said it should only really be a thing bothering him for the next like 2 weeks. And then he specifically said 2 weeks on the broadcast. So I'm like, I wonder if that's just like if Justin put a little timetable on it of like, okay, might still be wrapped up and bandaged, but like, pain wise, comfortability wise, like I feel like I'm only a couple weeks away from feeling kind of back to normal, at least with just the finger itself.
Yeah, I mean, this could definitely be more of a ribs issue from last year. You do want to think that a ribs issue versus a left hand is going to affect your throwing ability much more. But I mean, Justin's like one of the toughest dudes I've ever seen out there. I mean, he's just such a battler. And we saw him take a few shots last night. I know TJ Edwards got in there once or twice and really made him feel it. And it just seems like he just hops right back up and gets back at gets back out there in the huddle. So, I mean, definitely is something to keep an eye on. But I think, especially after last night's performance, I'm comfortable saying that, I think that those discussions about how much that left finger can limit him can kind of be put to rest. But
I
again,
think
this
so.
wasn't this
I
was
think, I
against
mean,
a very
it's
bad Bears
it's going
defense.
to be a small stretch of the season where probably we might be the only ones looking into it that much, but I mean, they brought up an interesting point on the broadcast, or like his numbers since have just not been this, like he was off to a really good start. And granted, they played some tough teams in that stretch since he's heard it, like Cowboys, Chiefs, and obviously they had a bye week. Um, but like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just think it definitely affected him more than we think it did. I still don't know what that percentage is, what that amount is worth,
Fair.
but I just think looking back on that stretch, and yes, can you credit it to the opposing defenses and their game plans? Yeah, 100% too. I mean, those are two good defensive units that we went up against, and the scores reflect that. So all in all, I think I'd have to agree with you in the big picture. Yes, I think going forward, we've probably seen the worst football related to any sort of finger injury, but yeah, no, I think it spells good things, and I think for him to get back on track in front of a national audience was good, and now he has another chance next week to build on that, to show everyone again, like, hey, next week is going to be, oh, I can't wait for that pregame episode because I'm excited for that game. Like it's such a put up or shut up game. I mean, you look at the record, you look at the time frame of when it falls in the season. It's kind of right in that era where teams start to go on these season defining kicks and stretches. So that's kind of, added in there. And then you think about like just the Jets, man. The Jets have like Robert Saleh, he interviewed for the Chargers job, right?
I
I want to say he did, but I don't quote me on that. But
I don't know. Yeah, don't
talk
yeah.
about a guy that's like it's so clear that he's the guy for that job. I mean, for him to do what he's done with what he's had, and a defensive guy to actually come in and like make an immediate impact on a team's defense, like those are all good signs. And so, I mean, he's just a heck of a coach. That's gonna be a really good test for this offense and for this team as a whole. But yeah, I'm kind of looking ahead here, but I'm just
I
excited.
mean,
So
I'm with you though, man. I mean, I think Jets probably boast the best defense that we've seen this year up to this point, and primetime Herb is really going to get tested come excuse me, come Monday night. So it's
yeah.
definitely going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah. Any other parts of the offense from last night's game worth mentioning? I mean, I know we've talked about Quentin Johnson. His that's what we talked about. He had a baby breakout game. That's what I wanted, and that's
Yeah,
exactly what he did.
we've seen flashes now. We
We've seen
went
flashes.
we went weeks without flashes, and now we've seen those flashes, and
Yeah.
Got to be very happy about it. I think really one last guy I want to mention on this offense that just makes this unit so much better as a whole when he's fully healthy. And last night I think we saw him really fully healthy since week 1. That would be Austin Eckler. I mean, just
Yes,
such a
sir.
threat. Rush game, we could not get much going on the ground last night. As bad as the Bears defense is, they have been very good on the ground so far this year. But I mean, just what a weapon he is in the pass game. And that was on full display last night.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it was so refreshing to see Eckler out there doing what he does. Like, just to see a screen pass go, like, just to see a screen pass like flutter and just drop in there, and then just had seen the little bastard just take off. Like, ah,
He's
man, I
just a
love it.
little
I love
he's
it.
just a little squirrel, and he just
Dude,
pops
he's
out of
probably
nowhere,
like,
and it's
when we look back in 5 years, a decade from now, like when Eckler is long retired, he might be one of the most entertaining Chargers that I've grown up or have just watched, like, in general.
he
Like, yeah, I mean, there's some other names, like obviously LT's without a doubt the most exciting Charger I've ever seen. But man, Austin Eckler is fun to watch. Like when you see him utilized uh to his best potential, like when the offense is flowing and he's just doing, I mean, he's just fun to watch bounce off guys. He's like 5'6" and you can't get him down to the ground. Like he'll drag the pile. He'll go airborne. He like, he's fast, he's shifty, like he's just fun to watch. Like he's
Austin Eckler is what Darren Sproles would be if Darren Sproles was 50 pounds heavier. Like,
yeah.
I think
I
that's
mean,
a
yeah,
perfect.
Sproles,
They run the same. They play the same
yeah.
way. They're so useful, especially in the pass game. Like, I think it's a perfect comparison.
Yeah, Sproles is a great. He's in that conversation of Chargers too, where it's just like, man, you always had like one play where you can go back to or you have in your mind. You're like, man, you remember that play? Like that was crazy. Um, but yeah, man, when we look back, Austin Eckler might be one of those. I know for me, he's definitely gonna be one of those guys when I think about just fun guys to watch. And dude is doing something like I mean, look, I really think the Chargers can get a deal done with, or I don't think they. I shouldn't say I think. I really hope they can get a deal done with him, even if it's just like a 1 year. Like squeeze as much juice out of him as you can, um, because he's still one of those guys. Maybe if he's had shown some more signs of regression, I'd probably be like, yeah, let somebody else bid on him. Let him get paid. But like, I think if you can work out a 1 year deal, uh, after you figure out the other cap nightmares on this on the books this off
Yeah, that
season, I think it'd be so worth it because it's so clear. Herbert benefits so much from having a guy like him in the backfield, and they don't have that clear next guy to step up and be a legit RB1 in the league. I mean, they have some solid backup choices, but I think at the end of the day, that's all they are.
Yeah, for sure. I think RB1 is going to be a big discussion going into the offseason, but just with how useful Eckler is, especially even just as a third down back, if we have another power guy that can come in and get 5 yards of carry. Just as a third down guy, Eckler is perfect, and it's clear that the chemistry between him and Herbert is legit. And yeah, I agree with you. I want to get as much out of his career as possible.
That's the only thing that I'm like semi concerned about. Like, not that he'll leave and go somewhere else. It's just like I hope he doesn't go to a contender, someone that's willing to pay. Like, dude, if the Eagles got a hold of him, or even a team like Cincinnati, I know they have Joe Mixon, but I mean Kansas City, bro. Oh my god, I would throw up if the Chiefs signed him in free agency.
He's such a Panther, dude. He's such a Panther.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows? Like, he'll have a bunch of bidders, but like, man, I just think it's gonna be. It won't be as painful to watch if he goes to like a team like the Panthers and you just watch him be a fantasy god. But if he goes to like a contender or even like, dare I say it, the Chiefs, it's gonna be
Mm,
really tough to watch.
no, if Austin Eckler goes to the Chiefs, dude, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna
Why wouldn't he?
vomit.
Why wouldn't he?
I'm
He would be perfect. And why would they not at least
because
entertain that?
because that'll hurt my feelings. That's why he shouldn't do it.
So that's why. Yeah, no, I
That would
agree. It
be
would
the
hurt
whole
mine as
reason why.
well.
But hey, that's a bridge that we will have to cross later this offseason. As for now, though, happy to see him get so involved in the pass game like we saw last night. Really, like mentioned, first time since week one, it feels like he's really, really been, back to his old ways. So
It does, and this offense very clearly benefits from it and just looks like a great offense when he's on the field. So transitioning over to the defensive side of the ball hasn't happened a whole lot of time or a whole lot this year, but got to give our props to Brandon Staley for calling a decent game. I just think this defense balled out. Still a lot of issues with it. They did not play a really great offense or a great quarterback for that uh, matter, but hey, they got the job done. They gave up 13 points, which I think is the lowest that they've given up all season.
I want to say so. Yeah,
I don't have
definitely is.
the final numbers in front of me as far as yards allowed and everything like that, but all in all, I mean, they did what they were supposed to do. I don't want to give them too many props because it's not like you held the Chiefs to 13 points, or it's not like you held the Bills or the Bengals. Like, uh, it was a team that you could argue like you shouldn't have even allowed 10, but plays are going to be made. Those guys are athletes too. So, but at the end of the day, they looked good. The turnovers were there, the pressure was there. We saw Joey Bosa look like Joey Bosa. We saw, some guys flying around in the backfield making plays. Sante Samuel Jr. making plays. Jasir Taylor with a cool interception.
The
Derwin
easiest
James,
interception he'll ever have, mind you. But
yeah, Derwin James had a sneakily really cool pick. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just great to see this defense get some turnovers, make some plays, and it's just I forget how easy it is or how much easier it is to win when you can take the ball away from the other team.
yeah, I mean, when you got your offense cooking and then your defense gives you the ball back so many times, it's really easy to put up 30 points suddenly. Especially 24 in that first half was quick. So
Yeah,
shout out to our defense, dude. I saw plays from just about everyone. Joey had a really nice night. I thought overall he generated a lot of pressure. Had one very dominant sack. Thule was out there like usual. Khalil was out there like usual. I mean, Derwin made some plays. Sante Samuel Jr. made some plays. It just feels like everybody deserves some flowers for last night. There was not a single guy on defense that really stood out as really having a poor night. So, I mean, overall, I
no,
I just think this unit as a whole was able to really work off of each other and make plays and get our offense the ball and hell, hold them to 13. Like for Chargers football, that's insane.
it is. Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, if you think about what Justin Herbert could do with his whole career, if they're giving up 13 to 20 points a game, like that record looks a lot different all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I mean, love it or hate it. I mean, you can spin it a thousand ways. With who they played, blah blah blah. But all in all, it's a step in the right direction, and they have another chance to prove themselves against a not so great offense, but a scrappy offense next week when they travel to New York. So, uh, yeah, I mean, individually, obviously, Derwin James. There was just a couple of Chargers that finally showed up. That we've been kind of waiting for. Joey Bosa, Derwin James, with a few others as well. So, um, yeah, I think all in all, I'd probably give it a B plus performance, maybe even a straight up B, because I think they did a good job. But I also was expecting a little bit more out of them, especially in that second half. But again, I don't know. I wonder how easy it is to coast in some of those situations when they're up, 30-7 with 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, before they've scored that second touchdown. Um, but yeah, I mean, you'd like to think not so much, but I don't know. I always wonder in those situations, like, do they, even though they're professional athletes, does that mindset start to creep in at some point of like, oh man, we're fucking killing these guys? Like, do you just start to go through the motions a little bit?
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. But they did only give up 6 points in the second half. They gave up what 6 in the first, or 7 in the first, 6 in the second. So I mean,
There's a touchdown in
overall,
each half. Yeah.
yeah. And then they didn't get the 2 point. So I just think that they benefited from playing a really horrible offense, and that obviously
Yeah.
will make you feel good. But again, this is an offense that did score 40 last week against the Raiders, yes, but it's not like the Raiders defense and our defense statistically wise have been too
Yeah.
far off. So
I mean, it's definitely one of those games where you can't get too I mean, I understand you can't be too critical of it. They only gave up 13 points. They've looked the best they've looked all season. But you gotta take it with a grain of salt because it is the Bears, and they're not a
there's
good offense. But yeah, that's a great point too. Like if they put up 40 on the Raiders last week, that's also just a good sign for this defense. But ultimately, man, I was paying attention more to kind of in between the lines type stuff. So maybe not what was put up on the scoreboard, but were they still giving up big plays? How did they do on third downs? Were they able to get off the field? And they, for the most part, they took a step forward in those categories too. They were still liable for the big play. They started the game with like a 40-yard dot, but that I don't know, like, at this point, if it's even worth getting upset over the big play because I just expect it every week.
Yeah, I mean, and we got bailed out on another long touchdown where the receiver fell down in the end zone. So I mean,
Oh my
probably
god,
should have had
yeah, that
two big
was
plays for the Bears. Just some
yeah, I
busted
forgot about that
coverage. I
one.
know halftime thoughts Staley was kind of talking about how they just need to put a cover on top of the defense. Not let these guys behind them. And I mean, it worked out a lot better in the second half. So I mean, maybe if
Yeah,
adjustments like that become more of a common theme, who knows what this defense could look like down the road.
excited to see this defense against, like, a specific quarterback in Zach Wilson because, he's not a bad quarterback I mean, he's not a good quarterback, but I also think he's still probably a couple steps ahead of, like, your traditional backup NFL quarterback. I think he's a little bit better than that, but he's like a fringe starting quarterback in this league. So, with the chip on his shoulder, mind you, he's not really sure what his future looks like. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, all that stuff. He's trying to ball out as much as he can right now. It's going to be really interesting to see what he does against this defense. That'll be a good measuring stick because we've already seen a handful of quarterbacks put up big numbers on this defense, but specifically, that's just something that I'm already kind of looking forward to, seeing how they, uh, you know, how they scheme for him and just how they play him in general.
Geez, we should just get into our Monday night episode. It feels like we've talked almost just as much about the Jets this week as we have the Bears
Not
last night.
really,
No,
not
not
really.
actually, but not actually, but
I'm
no,
just
I
excited,
do agree
but
that I'm
it's
also
just
very
it's
excited.
a
I
game.
mean, I think we're
It's
we're
just a
riding the big
game.
time high.
Yeah, and it's just a game where it's like you saw a lot of good, and it's easy to sit here and be like, oh, that's good, this is good, this looks better, that looks better. They're it's a step forward, step in the right direction. But then my you know I contradict myself sometimes. I just go back and forth. I'm like, okay, well, how much of that was really, was it eyewash? Was it, oh, okay, well, it was the Bears. You guys played a terrible offense. So that's why I keep thinking Jets already because I already think that's such a better,
It's a better
test
test.
measuring
It'll
stick.
be a
Yeah,
good. It'll
yeah,
be a much better eye test than the Bears.
yeah. Oh, 100%. That's the only reason I think my mind is kind of like already drifting that way. But I mean, there's still, like I said, you can't discredit all of it. I mean, you still got to take it with a grain of salt. But I mean, yeah, the defense they played the best game of the year. I'll leave it at that.
Agreed. And offense probably played their second best game of the year. Just Minnesota game would be the only other one above that. But especially that first half, I mean, it just felt like
Yeah,
both units were so lights out. I mean, if the Chargers can play like they did last night on a week to week basis, we're looking at 11, 12 wins. It's just the inconsistencies are what holds us down so much. And second
agreed.
half woes. I mean, offense still had a second half woefully night, if you will.
Yeah,
But dude, another quick shout out, Cameron Dicker, man, been nails so far to start the year. Drilled another two more 50 yarders last night. Um, I mean, he's a really good feeling to have walk out on that field when you know your offense can't quite get it done on third down.
Yeah, and I totally missed his 55-yarder last week in Kansas City. I caught like 6 plays from that game, as I was at a music festival while it was going on. But, yeah, so that was like a kinda like nice little surprise on the broadcast last night, and I was like, "Oh, he did hit a 55-yarder
Oh
last
yeah,
week. Okay, alright." So when he lined up for that 53-yarder, that took the pressure off me. Like, I was like, "Oh, okay, well, let's just see how accurate he is from 53," and boom, he nailed it. So that's been my only gripe with him. It's not even a gripe, I can't even say that. It's my
that's
only,
on
like,
you.
concern. And I know, it is, just because, like, he's he's only missed a couple, but they've been big ones, at crucial times. So, but yeah, dude, I love the kid. By far the most reliable kicker they've had probably since Nick Novak. Like,
Yeah, it might be that long.
Screw Honey Badger, screw some of those other guys that we've had. No, like, probably since Nick Novak. Just like, I mean, Nick Novak did not have a huge leg, but you knew he was going to be money from like 50 in.
Yeah, for sure. Which is, I mean, I think a big argument for Dicker, especially this year, was distance. You know, we saw him miss some 50 plus yarders last year, but we know how nails he is from, 45 and in. And this year, I think, I don't know, has he been perfect? He has not been perfect from over 50, but I want to say he's like three
I
for
want to say he
four.
missed one. He missed one
He missed
somewhere
one against
earlier in the year.
Minnesota.
Yeah, that might have been it.
But other than that, dude, it's been a lot more consistent from 50 plus, and he's
Yeah.
looked really good to start the year.
And really, I mean, yeah, it's great that he's hit 55, so we know he can hit from 55. But really, you just want to, I mean, at least in our recent history of this team, following this team, it's the 45 and ends that haunt you. Like, if you miss a 55 at the end of regulation, it still hurts, but nothing hurts like missing a 37 yarder to
Oh,
send you to the next round, or like, how far was Cody
you had to
Parkey?
you had to say that, huh?
Cody Parkey's double doink was from like 37 yards, I want to say.
Yeah,
Like, that's pain.
that's
That's
pain.
major pain.
And that's why finding a guy that can put it away from those distances so consistently is such a great feeling, especially as Chargers fans. Because I mean, we've been through our Josh Lambos, our Young Wei Koos, our we could go on and on, or Caleb Sturgis. Like we've had
Yeah.
so many of these kickers throughout the years that
Tristan Vizcano.
Tristan Vizcano, yeah. I mean, we've had so many of these guys come through with just not being able to find any consistency, and I think we finally found it.
Caleb McLaughlin.
Dude, we can sit here for hours.
That I don't I to be honest with you, I blacked out right there. I don't even know how that name came into my mind because I literally forgot about him as he popped into my mind.
Well, there you go. But yeah, I mean, there's another one to the Browns have QB jerseys. We could have kicker jerseys just
We
all the
could.
way down to the ground.
We could. Yeah, no, we should actually do that. We should look back. We should just get a Kading jersey and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a scroll. You'd be wearing a wedding dress, dude.
You would, but that would be great. That'd be great content.
That
It's
would
good
be that
content.
Halloween costume idea next year.
What were your other big takeaways from the Chargers defeating the Bears 30-13?
I mean, just my biggest one overall, which I feel like we've already pretty much talked about, was just how hot of a start they got off to. I mean, the Bears were already going away from the run game at the end of the first quarter because I mean, it was clear that their defense was not going to be able to stop our offense whatsoever. And I mean, that seemed to be a trend. Once the offense slowed down, our defense picked back up. So I just think the two units, playing off of each other, it was so huge towards that win. And it's just something that I want to see happen more consistently.
Yeah, for me, I mean that's a great takeaway. For me, I went immediately to the offensive side of the ball. I mean, the defense, I think we're gonna live and die with it. Like, we don't know what defense is gonna show up week by week. We'll obviously definitely take the good performances like we got last night and just take them when we can get them. But I think I mean, that's at least the mindset I have with the defense. Like, I'm not expecting them to go out and win a game for us, even though they've proven that they can do that a couple times already this year, ironically. It's so much less consistent than the offense, and the offense isn't the most consistent thing in the world. Um, but a performance like last night definitely, you know, puts you a little more of ease. You know, when you look at how they move the ball, you know what they were able to do on the ground. Eckler being back and healthy, and this is I'm going to give a big shout out to the offensive line. I mean, they're banged up, and Rashawn Slater's not at 100%. Corey Lindsley, he's out for the foreseeable future, which Staley gave some news on him today and kind of gave the old runaround, which is not a good sign. So I don't know how
Yeah.
long we'll be without Lindsley, but I mean they're not operating at 100%. And yes, they have definitely had their moments this year where we've talked about them because they've broken down in the second half, and they kind of did a little bit of that last night too. But I think for the most part, I've been impressed with at least how we haven't talked about them a ton. Like, we've talked about them situationally, but it hasn't been like in previous years where if we're missing two starters, like, it's so clear.
It's
I mean, you just guys getting through consistently.
no more Sam Tevies.
Oh, Storm Norton's, dude.
Oh, facts, dude. I mean, yeah, we could sit here and list shitty kickers. We could sit here and list shitty O linemen all day. I mean, it's always been a group that the Chargers have just
Joe
never
Barksdale.
ever. Joe Barksdale, horrible man. Like, oh god. But DJ Fluker, come on, first round
Woo,
pick,
woo.
everything. King
Work
Dunlap,
that
dude.
train, though.
Bro, I mean, there's just so many guys that we could go in and name, but finally, I think we've seen enough consistency to believe in this offensive line from week to week. The I think Corey Lindsley being in there takes this unit up like so much more. But Will Cloud's been holding it down well enough. Really massive test this week against Quinn and Williams and that Jets defensive line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could get messy. But I mean, hey, it's a test for a reason. And last night's gave me some amount of reason that I can think of that they might be able to hold their own.
Yeah, look, and at this point too, like, you have to take into account, like, Justin Herbert, he's in his fourth year being a professional quarterback. He's gotten a lot better at maneuvering in the pocket and facilitating, that traffic. We still, I mean, we joke about it every now and then. He does look, like he's not the most aware person at times where he's at in the field. Just, with and he's a quarterback. I don't expect him to have the awareness of a receiver or running back or anything like that. But um, yeah, I think he's a lot better at managing the pocket, and that plays into it as well. He, you know, might be able to get out of a few plays that he probably would have gone down or taken a sack in previous years, and now he's figuring out how to roll out, extend the play, and make plays on his own too.
Yeah, it's really been a massive help. The being able to get out of the pocket and make plays still the forte for this offense. And it's just really it makes it so much more exciting, especially when you go from a guy like Phillip Rivers as your QB to a dude that can play like Justin Herbert. It's such a
Dude,
brand of
yeah,
Chargers football we're not used to seeing. But over these last 4 years, it's really been a nice surprise.
it really has. Like, and just to have some mobility, like, he's athletic enough, big enough, strong enough, but yeah, dude, going from a guy like a statue like Philip, that's just like, oh, if they get any sort of bend on that tackle and create some pressure, like, he's going down. There's not. I mean, Philip was surprisingly really good at somehow with that little sidearm throw. Like, he could just sling it out of there at the last. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I thought he was sacked, and then just like a little sling out to
Dude,
Eckler
or
or
how many
Woodhead.
times you see him throw a ball and you're like, that's picked. And because it's just like the most like it's the like a slingshot, it was
Yeah,
such an odd motion. And now we have, Mr. Varsity Team 4.0, like one of the greatest throwing QBs that I've been able to see within my time. So such a step. I don't want to say a step forward because Phil did his things, Justin does his things, but it is really nice to see a guy that on a windy game day he's not going to fall over in the pocket. So
Yeah,
so
definitely, man. Yeah, it's so refreshing to see. Any other big takeaways from the win?
I don't really have anything that we haven't covered yet.
All right, man. Well, that's all I have. So we're gonna wrap this up a little early tonight. But all in all, a huge victory by the Chargers, defeating the Bears 30-13 on Sunday Night Football, getting to 3-4 with a chance to get back to 500 on Monday Night Football this next week against the Jets. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Chargers Powder Hour. This has been episode number 92.
Shout out Joe
Make sure to
Gaziano.
shout out Joe Gaziano. That I couldn't think of a 92 earlier, so I'm
There we
glad you
go.
stepped up there.
That's the
Um,
only one I got. So
hey, that works. That works. Yes. Make sure you guys follow us on social media on Instagram and Twitter at Powder Hour Pod LA for all the latest news and updates about the podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to throw us a subscribe. And as always, bolt up. Peace.